Okay. Okay. So, welcome everyone. I'm going to walk you through the health center design and its operational strategy as a part of analog mass simulation. So, the challenge, first of all, let's talk about challenge. We are talking about simulation based high risk scenario, a virus outbreak inside a mass habitat, just like a COVID-19 on Earth. So, isolation protocols become vital. But one major difference here is there is no hospital next door, no medevac flights. The crew is on their own. So let's start with the health center design. So first we'll look at the internal design. So it is vertically aligned cylindrical module with a diameter of around 8 meters and three distinct operational docks. So each level of structure is meticulously dedicated to critical medical function. First, we'll talk about isolation and quarantine, which is on the lower dock. Then comes the primary clinical care on the middle level, and then comes the additive manufacturing on the upper floor. So the stack vertical arrangement optimizes the space usage while also enabling the gravity supported separation of sterile zones and biohazard containment areas, which is this inspiration was taken from existing NASA analog for the long duration of Earth missions. So I'll show you some pictures here. So first of all, the back understanding of this comes from the biomimicry aspect as well. As you can see, there is a clear rendering of the three levels. There's the base level where is the bioisolation is occurring. Then comes the compartments and airlock integration, which represents the biocontainment ports. To be like a clean out layout of some small operating and treatment spaces, ceiling rail lines, which are uh, maybe supported with the robotic arms, which also one of the illustrates the idea of space mira with surgical setups. And floor texture, as you can see here, which is again demonstrates biomimicry, which is a copper alloy surface patterned with a micro scale riblets, which resembles the shark skins. So it gives the physical disrupt bacterial biofilm from forming, and also gives a passive and permanent method of infection control, and it reduces around 80% as it is proven in the ISS analog studies. Then we see in the interior surfaces across the decks, maybe we can use the nano coating derived from the lotus leaf, as you can see. This is why I'm used this because it's a high because of its hydrophobic behavior, which ensure that water, blood, or chemical reagents do not adhere to surface, and which thereby it facilitates the rapid cleaning and reducing the need for the chemical disinfectant. And then you also can see the honeycomb wall, which also represent the kind of a lesson borrowed from the nature, which we can use for extreme environment on Mars. So these are the three concepts for the internal designs I had. Then let's go to machines and technology for the operation. First of all, let's start with the diagnostic lab on chip, which represent the most significant breakthrough in the miniaturized diagnostic as we know today. So it uses the microfluidic technology to analyze the blood chemistry, ion balances, the complete blood count, and even the inflammation makers like CRP. This has been tested under parabolic flight as well as the ISS microgravity condition, where the fluid behavior is unpredictable. NASA's HRP has endorsed a lab on chip design as part of its exploration medical capability. Um, it device operate on the 20 microliter blood sample and produces a result less than in 15 minutes, making it ideal for our triage and the isolated missions. Then come the mini surgical robot, which one of the robot that I've seen was Space Mira, and it has undergone the functional trial in space analog mission, including NEMO and ISS remote latency tests. So it can be operated remotely. It's tolerating latencies about 2 seconds, which is sufficient for mission with cislunar space. ESAs also have reported successful demonstration of this robot with a robotic surgery and simulation delayed environment. Then comes the AI guided ultrasound. So that it's already used in the ISS in the early 2000 under NASA's Adam project. So this device has proven even the non-medical astronaut can be guided to capture the high quality scans, and it is vital for diagnosing the internal bleeding, musculoskeletal injuries, and even cardiac irregularities. Then comes 3D bioprinters. So it gives us understanding of it will give us the um, technology to capture the vascular structure and hydrogel patches. So this technology was flown aboard the ISS in multiple experiment, including the Redwire space in 2019 and 2022. So the system combines the extrusion and xlorography printing heads with which create both solid and semi-solid biological structure, from the skin graft to slow release drug matrices. And then at the end, the far UVC ceilings and the variable. So these emits 222 nanometer light, which can destroy the viruses and bacteria while being safe for the continuous human exploration. And studies in the nature and the microgravity confirm its microbial efficacy without human tissue damages. And wearable vital pages, they can be integrated into astronaut suits, and they can sensor continuously and record heart rate, SpO2, temperature, and even the galvanic skin responses as a stress matrix. Yeah, so you can see here the pictures of all of these, the miniature robot, the lab on chip, and the vital patches. And this is more illustration, little bit futuristic illustration. Then we comes to the resources generated in situ versus shipped. So first we'll start with the oxygen, which is the most critical consumable in our design. So we use spirulina based photobioreactor, which is cyanobacterium. It's highly efficient at photosynthesis and has been selected by multiple space agencies, including ESS Melissa space program, for the closed loop life support system. So 1 cubic meter of spirulina culture can meet the oxygen need of around 2 crew members plus the clinical minimal oxygen demand. So it has been already used in microgravity environment to test its efficacy, and it also gives a sustained oxygen production and CO2 recycling over several months. Then other item comes the IV fluid. So we no longer rely on entirely shipped inventory. Instead, the water that is extracted from the atmosphere using the humidity capture, then combined with the sodium chloride derived from the Martian regolith. And these brine salt have perchlorates and chlorides. They have already been identified in the Martian soil by the Phoenix lander and the Curiosity rover. So first, once it's filtered, processed through the reverse osmosis, and then sterilized, they meet the um, ASTM standard for the medical grade saline. So these can be used over there. Then comes the on-site pharmaceutical production of genetically engineered algae such as Chlamydomonas redrati. So this has been demonstrated by research that it can express the therapeutic proteins like insulin, growth factor, and antibodies in the microgravity conditions. And these biopharmic concept have moved now to the early stage lab demonstration. It is at TRL 5 stage currently. So these can be used in Mass Health Center. We can extract these active compound and formulate the essential medication needed there. Then comes the splint and cast, uh, which can be fabricated via 3D printer, and the PLA regolith composite filament. So material will have lactic acid, which is derived from the bioplastic with the process Martian soil stimulant. So it's rigid, it's biocompatible, and it can also be sterilized. So using this approach, it has been seen that the fracture brace can be printed, hardened, and also applied all within 45 minutes. So these can be used in our long-term missions. Yeah, so these are the some of the illustration of futuristic bioprinters and photobioreactors and the cast. Yeah, now coming to the organizational structure. First, health center operate as a compact multidisciplinary medical team which composed of four core roles: the chief medical officer, the biomedical engineer, the clinical scientist, and health performance specialist. So, chief medical officer is not only the lead clinician but will also serve as medical authority across the entire habitat, and it is responsible for performing surgeries, overseeing triages during emergency, and approving health related mission decision. Then we have biomedical engineer. While traditionally this is not a technical support role, but in space, it becomes a mission critical. It will be the person will be responsible for maintaining and calibrating all medical technology, including lab on chip, bioprinters, and surgical robots. And this role has grown into ISS introduced complex life sciences hardware requiring mid-mission reconfiguration and repair as well. Third comes the clinical scientist. The role will manage the pharmaceutical system, laboratory diagnostic, and any ongoing experiment in a bioreactor or a drug synthesis. Lastly, the health performance specialist will be like a cross between a physiotherapist and a psychologist and a behavioral coach. So, in it has seen in the mission like Mars 500 and high seas, the mental health and physical performance are inseparable from the operational safety. So, this specialist will be able to supervise daily exercise regimes, monitor the signs of sleep disturbance or emotional stability, and also lead the psychological first aid when any kind of interpersonal conflict will arise. And at the end, cross training, so each member is trained to fulfill at least two secondary roles in additional to their primary function. So for example, CMO can perform the lab diagnostic like that. And this is kind of organizational structure specifically only for the health center. Then we'll go to the position profiles and duties. So we'll start with the CMO. So they spend around 8 hours per day providing clinical care, diagnostic treatments, minor surgeries, or remote consultation, and around 4 hours of managing administrative or command responsibility. Next come the biomedical engineer. So it is around, so mostly will be around technology, 6 hours per solar dedicated to prevent maintenance, calibration, sterilization, and 2 hours in R&D, improving the workflows and testing new materials, updating the protocols. Then comes the clinical scientist. So around 4 hours in the lab, handling assays, reagent synthesis, pharmaceutical management, and issue-based biomanufacturing. Then other 4 hours are on tending to bioreactors, algal loops, which are constantly going on the processes to monitor them. Then finally, we have health and performance specialist. So you're around 3 hours per soul, supervising the exercise regime for the whole crew, monitoring the cardiovascular outputs, any musculoskeletal conditioning, adaptive workout for the mental health need. And as I said that each person is cross trained, so they can take a multi-role adaptability when there is some other person must be busy with some other role, or any there are workload spikes or any injury or in any conflicts. Yeah, so there that will help. These are the few YouTube playlist. One from the NASA Johnson Space Medicine Grand Rounds, and from the ES Academy there is a this one is from the telesurgery experiment on parabolic flight. Then the Henry Ford Innovation Ultrasound Guided Procedure for ISS, as we included the AI ultrasound there. Then from MIT Aeroastro Bioregenerative Life Support, this also gives insight into bioreactor. And at the end, the 3D bioprinting and microgravity. All the technology that I have mentioned, their process will be explained in each of these YouTube playlists. Then astronaut training program. So first and most intensive will be surgical training through the VR simulation, around 90 hours in virtual reality surgical modules. And there are platforms that are modeled after um, NASA Surgical Sim Lab, which have also adapted from the robotic surgery that were performed in the Nemo underwater mission and ISS latency trials. Now, next are the ultrasound training based on the ADAM protocol, and there also a AI guided ultrasound system that can autonomously suggest the probe positioning, scan parameters, or even the preliminary diagnostics. So this is around 30 dedicated hour under the microgravity simulation and the robotic latency conditions. Then comes the hands on lab on chip operations. So this will be a microfluidic diagnostic tools which are efficient, but they do require the calibration, error checking, and interpretation. So for this, around 24 hours of practice to maintain reagent loading, then the calibration, troubleshooting the false reading, and syncing the result. At the end, the conflict and isolation. So here the tools I have drawn from Mars 500 and high seas and on Concordia stations. So focusing on emotional regulation, group dynamics, and proactive de-escalations, and also biofeedback training. At the end, we come to the cross specialty emergency drills. So these will simulate the worst case scenario, like CMO is injured, the BM is biomedical officer is locked in quarantine, maybe lab fails mid test. So these are the drills. So that remaining team member can rotate into new roles under the time pressures, proving the structure is not dependent on the staffing but also resilience through the redundancy. Yeah, so these are the some illustration of the crew doing different activities, and they are getting trained for handling UV, lab on chip, etc. Resources that are needed for 1 week. So let's begin with the medical supplies for 1 week. A 4-person crew require around 40 liter of sterile water for lab analysis, patient rehydration, and wound irrigation. Then we have oxygen reserve, around 400 liter of a backup of O2. Can be compressed into small high efficiency tanks. Then we come to the pharmaceuticals, around zero point 0.5, 0.9 kilogram of medication focused on a broad spectrum antibiotics, anti-inflammatory drugs, anticoagulant, and emergency painkillers. Then disposable medical kits, which will include the sutures, IV tubing, diagnostic test strips, or bandages. So around 200 unit for a week. And food and life support crossovers in that hydroponic nutrients pack, around 1 kg mass of a one, like a spirulina or microgreens, etc. Yeah, and here it's a little expanded aspect of food, beverages, water use, hygiene, and what are the things that are needed for the kitchen. So, for instance, the crew will use around 84 packs of freeze-dried meals pack per week, around averaging about 200 grams per meal. So that's a 3 meal per crew member per soul. So 56 liter of potable water for drinking, 140 tea or electrolyte sachet, or and biodegradable hygiene kits. Yeah. So this is a very brief overview of apart from the essentials, food, beverages, what is the hygiene, for the hygiene aspect, what things we will be needing. Yeah, and this is again little bit illustration of how it will be stored and managed in 1 weekly supplies. Then guideline for the other facility or the for the whole station. And yeah. So first of all, start with the sync at 7 o'clock, variable auto logs, vitals, and intranet which are automatically synchronized across the module via the internal intranet. Then comes the mobility flow through the stations like a personnel will follow clockwise only traffic pattern when moving between the modules. So this is something that sounds rigid. I actually read in one of the article, but it serves actually two powerful purposes. It minimizes the face-to-face contact in a narrow passageway, and it standardizes the emergency egress. So in past analog studies, including one at the Johnson Space Center and Hera analog mission, so this was shown that the unidirectional traffic pattern reduce accidental contact around 40%, and in simulation with infection control overlay, they improved spatial hygiene significantly. Then another critical layer is 24/7 telemedicine availability, and medkit around every day. It was that 30 meter of pressurized corridor contain a wall mounted medical cache, which like a AED station in an airport or we have seen in public buildings. Then comes a QR code which link to a context sensitive triage guides, and at the end the module wise isolation alert relay. So if one crew member, let's say, enter the quarantine due to fever or positive diagnostic result, so the environmental exposure, their status will be automatically broadcasted to every modules. Yeah, so it will be auto updated across all the modules. Now, health center protocols and routines. So first of all, uh, at the very heart, we have a smart triage board. So this will display updated automatically from the wearable sensors, which provides a color-coded overview of each crew member's health. Green for stable, amber for deviation, red for emergency flags. Then comes the environmental control, which is anchored by a dual phase disinfection routine. So each sol, the far UVC ceiling lights activate for around 5 minutes, so which will perform a passive disinfection, killing around 99% of airborne pathogens, which remain safe for the human exposure. And every third sol, all interior surfaces coated in the lotus leaf inspired nanomaterial, as we talked, are wiped down with a static free cloth. So this combination will neutralize microbial buildup without introducing any kind of a chemical residue into habitats, air, or a food system. Then comes the laboratory quality control. So this will be regimented around twice daily at 6 o'clock morning and 6 o'clock evening via internal control chip, which runs through the diagnostic platform. Then comes the bioreactor check, which will power spirulina and recombinant drug production. It is also checked for 12-hour intervals. So the operator will measure the pH, O2, and the protein yield, and the data will be fed into metabolic curve for keeping it in the loop. So these are again some illustrations of what it will look like. Yeah. And this is also kind of a infection trigger protocol that I have included here. So how the emergency devices will be handled, what unidirectional and the bidirectional lock system will do, how we talked about the traffic for in unidirectional flow. Coming at safety protocols, what the infection trigger protocol that I just showed. So if any crew member will register a temperature above 38 degrees Celsius, combined with symptoms maybe like cough or any kind of a rash, the system automatically will lock the individual into positive pressure isolation pod, and it will immediately switch to independent air filtration, and nearby crew are alerted through the visual and audio signal. So the model mirrors kind of a containment protocol, which are tested aboard the Concordia station, and yeah, and it is also adapted from the Earth-based pandemic ICU strategies. Then comes the bidirectional isolation airlock, which is a key feature here. So airlock maintains around minus 40 Pascal pressure differential compared to the main habitat, ensure that any airborne pathogen cannot escape the contaminant zone. And bidirectional here means the crew and equipment can still enter and exit, but always through a sterilization cycle, as it is very clear in the picture here. Another critical scenario is solar radiation exposure. So solar particle events, something that the crew is being alerted for via NOAA or ESA solar telemetry. So the protocol requires immediate relocation to 11-1 deck for of the health center, which is shielded with 500 liter of water walling, so which provide equivalent of 15 grams per square centimeter of mass shielding. Yeah, and this has proven to reduce solar radiation dose to survivable limits. And this was this approach was mentioned in one of the ISS studies, so where they shown the ISS radiation shelter and which are being modified for the Martian use. And finally, we have emergency equipment which are on constant readiness. So health center will have a automated CPR device, a chest compressor calibrated to around 100 compressions per minute, and fully charged AED with a real-time ECG analysis. Now, occupancy and entertainment protocol. So let's begin with occupancy capacity. So the health center designed to accommodate around maximum of 3 patients under normal condition, 2 in a fully sealed isolation, and 1 observation bed for monitoring any kind of a less severe issues. But also the facility also is equipped with surge capacity. In event, let's say there is a mass casualty event or biohazard, 2 additional patients can be placed on emergency stretchers along the corridor rails. And these rails are modular and designed to safely lock the stretchers without obstructing any kind of clinical access. Then comes the VR Earthscapes. So it kind of use virtual reality therapy, specifically curated program. The name that I have given is a VR Earthscape. So it immerses the user in a real world natural environment like a forest or beaches or a river with audio and visual, and even a limited little bit of a tactile feedback. So studies from the Harvard Medical School and the NASA funded analog has shown that 15 minutes of VR nature therapy can reduce around um, cortisol up to 16%. And another tool is microgreen gardening. So each crew member will have a small tray around 0.25 square meter for growing their own greens. And this was actually shown in High Seas and Nemo, that it's about tactile engagement and life formation. And the data from High Seas and Nemo has shown that astronauts who tend to small plant system reported with improved mood, better sleep, and lower baseline anxiety. So this will act as a planting, watering, harvesting, but also will connect crew to time and grow and pacify their mental and emotional stability. Yeah. At the end, there are food micro production protocols, which are closed loop nutrition for life support. At the core of this system, microgreens and spirulina, so which, as we know, are not just supplemental snacks. So they are mission critical bioproducts which also support in nutrition and oxygen regeneration. So microgreen tray of around 0.25 square meter, as I just mentioned, one crew will manage, which will be optimized with hydroponic substrate and spectrum adjusted to LED lights. So despite this being small, each tray will yield around 40 grams of fresh mass per day, which will convert around 20% of crew's daily vitamin intake. So crops, maybe like mustard, arugula, radish, or broccoli, so which can be grown in a 7-day cycle. So these fast growth, nutrient dense plants will offer variety in texture, and also support appetite and kind of a mitigate menu fatigue. One of the article talked about the menu fatigue for the fatigue for the ISS astronaut. So it will also will help mitigate the menu fatigue. Then comes the spirulina photobioreactor. So this will recycle carbon dioxide inhaled by crew into oxygen and proton-rich biomass. So every 48 hours, we can harvest about 50 grams of dry spirulina, which contribute around 35% of recommended daily protein intake per crew. And these system will be supported by hydroponic nutrient packs. At the end, the closed loop integration, which is CO2 exhaled by crew, is bubbled to the spirulina chamber, which feeds the algae. And as we talked, it turns into oxygen and biomass. And the waste heat from this 3D printer on the upper deck will help maintain the optimal bioreactor temperature. So the waste will also be useful for us. So it will be kind of a compact, elegant cycle with a minimum input and a maximum output. Yeah, and for the 3D bioprinting, we have a PLA regolith composite, then peak filament and Gelma biolink. Okay, so PLA regolith is kind of a bioplastic filament blended with processed Martian soil analogs. It's a lightweight, durable, and easy to print at a moderate temperature, and it can be used to fabricate rigid medical items like how we talked about the fracture splints and cast, orthopedic braces, etc. Then comes the peak. This is a polyether ketone. So it's a high strength thermoplastic that can withstand both mechanical strength as well as the autoclave level sterilization. So it will be ideal for printing surgical tools like forceps, scalpel, or endoscopic guides, etc. Then comes Gelma link. This is a gelatin methyl cryolide, which is a biolink, and it is being used for printing soft tissue construct. And in this, what all we can be print will be wound dressing, then drug-loaded hydrogel patches, and the vascular scaffold. And these print are also formed around body temperature 37 degree, and they are seeded with therapeutic agent or even small cell culture whenever it is possible. This has been tested in microgravity aboard ISS by Redwire Space, and it had a promising result for the long-term tissue engineering in the orbit. Yeah, at the end, we come at the digital sync. So the health center will have a database approved of medical CAD files like surgical tools, splint mods, or maybe hydrogel templates, and this will be synced weekly from the Earth using a delay tolerant network. So this will allow to receive update, improvements, and emergency print even with a long coma delays. Yeah, this is little bit of illustration of the bioprinting and the occupancy entertainment protocols. And this is for the food and micro productions. At the end, all the technologies that we talked, how they are applicable to Earth. So AI guided ultrasound. So this was originally developed to allow non-medical astronaut to perform diagnostic scan, and now technology is being piloted in the rural health clinics across the Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. So in this, the trained sonographer, as we have seen in a rural region, are rare, but community health worker can now use this smart ultrasound probe with a real-time AI coaching. So it will enable the diagnosis of conditions like pregnancy complications, kidney stone, or fluid in the lungs without needing any kind of a radiologist to be present there. Then the antimicrobial surfaces that we talked about, particularly coatings which are inspired by the lotus leaf polymer or and the shark skin. So these nanostructure material can physically resist biofilm formation and reduce the microbial load around 80%. So on Earth, these coatings are now being applied in high-risk environment like ICU wards, neonatal care units, and even in the public transportation system. For that, they are actually testing this. Then miniaturized surgical robots like a space media system, and originally created to operate under communication delays in space. Uh, but now it is being tested in the disaster relief zone, forward operating military bases, and remote trauma centers. Then lab on chip diagnostic. So these are the very palm-sized device, can perform full blood panel infection screen and metabolic test with just a drop of a blood, and they give result within a minute. So the same system, this was being designed for mass, now is being used and adopted by global health NGO, and startup like Path and D3, yeah, to deliver the HIV, malaria, and COVID-19 testing to the refugee camps and the mobile clinics. So these kits now cost around less than $2 per test, and they don't require any kind of electricity or refrigeration. Yeah, this is again kind of a little bit illustration of what are all things that we have learned from the space and algorithm mass. These technology we can use on now guidelines that can be transferable to daily life on Earth. So as we saw a lot of operational protocols that can we can also use them in Earth. First, let's start with the continuous variable and AI triage. So in the mass simulation, variable sensors will feed health data into autonomous triage system, which will flag issues like infection risk, dehydration, or any stress overload. So this exact model is now being adapted for the chronic illness monitoring in heart failure, diabetes, and also in COPD patients. And they are also trying for senior citizens to alert their doctor early signs of cardiac event. And there are a few devices. One name was Elivcore, Fitbit ECG, and Whoop. Yeah, these are actually working in this area currently. Second comes the vertical farming. We just saw the picture of that. So in health center, around 0.25 meters square tray can produce around 40 gram of fresh mass per person, as we talked, which is enough to supplement critical micronutrients. So on Earth, this model will translate into stackable hydroponic system, as we can see here, for the urban food desert, where the fast food is cheap but also fresh produce is scarce. And there's already a pilot project in Detroit, Tokyo, and Cape Town, which are using these vertical kits in schools and community center. Third, we have a self-cleaning surfaces. So on Mars, we can rely on lotus leaf inspired coating and shark skin texture to repel microbes and dust without chemicals. So these principles now are being applied in door handles, bus rails, school desk, and the hospital endeavors. Yeah, so in the post-pandemic era, a lot of companies are researching on this, and they are adapting this into um, on Earth here as well. At the end, what are the sustainable development goal? Impact that we have seen, all the technologies and strategy that I talked in health center. First of all, SDG 3, which is like a good health and being. So the goal that focus on healthy lives and promoting well-being at all ages. So health center give info into telemedicine, wearable driven triage, and low cost lab on chip technology for diagnostic. These are the ones that will supporting good health and well-being. Then is with SDG 9, industry and innovation, the regenerative and modular and mobile medicine that we talked about, like in situ pharmaceutical synthesis and 3D printing surgical tools. Then comes the responsible consumption. So from the closed loop food system and recyclable materials, everything in the health center that is designed to minimize the waste and maximize the reuse. And finally, SDG 13, which is a climate action. It is more not the most expected impact, I would say, but it will teach us how to live with less energy, smart materials, and passive system, like a termite mound inspired ventilation system, which can be used for passive air control, and which will help redesign building in the equatorial cities and reducing reliance on energy intensive HVAC system that we see, especially here in the Mumbai, uh, because it's really humid. So these are the system that can be applied on cities like Mumbai here on Earth. And these are the references that I went for. Thank you for your time. And this was my understanding of how health station operation strategy should be under the attack of virus.